All right, so let me just kick it off. We are at 9 a.m. Eastern. So I am Adriana Zaluka, and I wanted to thank you all for joining us today for this Larry Krauss Family Office Technology program with Shaun Parkin, Haik from ARQA, and Charlie from Private Wealth Systems, standing in for Craig Pearson, who unfortunately had travel issues today. Now, firstly, I just have a couple of news. The main is that I'm now co-founder of FOTechHub, not my FOTech, because we have just rebranded. So just to let you know, so that you're not confused when you see the name FOTechHub. The reason for this is that we are emphasizing our focus not just on technology, but also operations. So our tagline is Family Office Tech and Ops Resource. And we are positioning ourselves as a go-to resource for family offices on anything tech and ops, so events, insights, research, etc. And the other small announcements is that this is the last Tech-NEW-logy program before our conference. So our annual conference is happening on the 19th and 20th of November. Virtually again, and we will be announcing our first speakers soon. So keep an eye on that, and we'll put a link to that conference in the chat box if you want to join us. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Phil to introduce Shaun. And Phil is obviously the founder of the Larry Krauss Tech-NEW-logy Institute. Thank you again, Phil.
Thank you, Adriana, for that introduction. And it's hard to believe, Shaun, that we actually put this together. I have been a big fan of Shaun Parkin's for many years. He puts out the Family Office Sherpa, which is really my go-to publication. I save all of them because they basically scour the world for what's happening in the family office, not only technology, but investment world. Shaun is the managing director and founder of Whole Road Investments. He's coming to us from Perth, Australia. So I'm glad he stayed up late, okay? Shaun is basically a consultant on everything that relates to family offices, specifically supporting, reporting, and investment structures. He spends lots of time reviewing vendors and putting together what I would call technology structures and infrastructures to make family offices decision-making better and more timely. And that's really what this program is all about. So with that, Shaun, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you so much. And I really can't tell you how much I appreciate your coming on and being part of my small group here.
That's very nice of you, Phil. Thank you very much. It's nice to see everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to speak here. As Phil mentions, my name's Shaun Parkin from sunny, well, not so sunny Perth. It's not too late, actually. It's only 9 o'clock in the evening, so it's not too bad. I think to add a little bit more colour to what I do as well is I'm a little bit uniquely placed in that, like Phil says, I do look at a significant amount of technology for single family offices, but I also have, over the last year and a half, installed not a small amount of technology as well. So coming from both the selection and, that objectivity, but also I guess at the coalface a little bit, right? Which is we've selected the software or we've selected the platform, and now we have to onboard it. So we see where, the talk ends and the actual grist of where the rubber hits the road, really. So it's been interesting for sure. So I work with mostly family offices in Australia. I do have some connectivity with Asia Pacific as well, but a lot of the suppliers that I use, and obviously this is why this is important and interesting for me, is that a lot of them are US and European based. So it's been, which makes it interesting and challenging, but all fun. So today we've got Charlie Brown from Private Wealth Systems, and we've got Haik as well. And Haik, I'm going to butcher your surname, so I'll let you do the introduction there. So what I thought we'd start with is just maybe Haik to begin with, just to give a little bit of background, and then we'll start digging into sort of what the family office challenge you're looking to solve.
Yeah, thanks for that, Shaun. I started my career on the private wealth management side. So I've been a user of products that are out there. And I first got my feet wet in the technology space with ADAPAR, where I worked on the client solution side for a couple of years, essentially doing implementations for ADAPAR for family offices, RIAs, and then institutions. So I was a part of the New York office at that time, which was a very big inflection point for ADAPAR, going after larger client base. And I left in 2017 to start a consulting practice, dealing with the same clients, helping them implement ADAPAR, run it efficiently, be an essential extension of their team. And then I realized that data was a big issue as far as the segregation of data from legacy systems, from institutions that weren't supporting data feeds. And I started building data feeds through a product called Cosmos, which I've exited at this point. And luckily, I think generative AI was on the come up at the time when I was looking at what's next and my vision for a product that can address the needs of family offices, RIAs, and all the clients that I came across. And that's kind of how I've built ARQA to this point. And that's how we've come to here. So
awesome. Thank you. And Charlie, a bit of a quick intro for you.
Sure, great. Thanks for having us here. So over the last 25 years, I've led wealth tech firms bringing cutting edge technologies to family offices as well as the institutional marketplace. Most of my time has been spent in sales and marketing, though in the last 15 years, I've brought 4 new technologies to the marketplace. And really what my specialization has been is bringing bringing technology to very, very large pools of assets and consolidating data, providing reporting and custom analytics. So I'm very happy to be here to speak with you folks today.
Excellent. Well, it looks like we've got 2 experts, which is great, and me. So let's dig into what we're kind of trying to talk about here today. So, hey, let's dig into. I speak to a lot of providers, so I'm really interested in, because you talked about ADAPAR, you talked about sort of the history of data and that aggregation piece and the complexities and difficulties there, and we've all seen that. I mean, those that have had to onboard and get data feeds set up and all that sort of stuff are very familiar with it. Can you really pinpoint for the audience where, if they've got a pain point, what are you looking to solve here? What's the challenge that you're looking to solve for them?
Yeah. So I think given my experience in the past and what I've seen works really well and where the gaps still are in the market, which nobody is unfortunately happy with the systems they're on. With ARQA, we are essentially building an AI native platform that can address different verticals within the wealth management space for RAs and family offices. So the current use cases and pain points that we're going after right now is manual data entry with AI, as well as having insights and data analytics on top of the data that you're working with already. So a lot of the clients that we come across may have systems that they're running, and there's so much going on that they're not able to actually stay on top of what's happening within the portfolio itself or within the real world that's affecting their portfolio. So with ARQA's 2 modules, Core Script and the AI Chat, we look at ways to essentially take segmented data sets that are coming through PDFs, places that data feeds don't exist, and use and leverage AI to be able to read all the data points and bring them into the system that they're currently working with or into our system in place of something like a spreadsheet that they are going to have to keep it housed in later. And then on the AI chat front, we're able to leverage APIs for existing systems like ADAPAR, Orion, anything that really they're using for their internal system to look at the analytics data sets, the schemas, and pull information. So you can say, what's my best performing stock? Where are the legal entities that had large cash infusions over the last couple of months? And then that'll give you all the insights that you care about. So it's kind of like your Nest thermostat for wealth management. It's always on. Your what?
Your Nest? The Amazon thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So if I hear that correctly, then it's you can either set yourself up as on the platform and that's all you use, or you can use, like you've mentioned, ADAPAR and a few others. You sit within that ecosystem, is that right? And you're taking the PDF data sets, all those challenge, let's face it, family office, significant amount of private markets, very few of them come through not in PDF form, or you got to go into the portal, things like that. So what you're saying is you're using the AI and machine learning, you're creating those bots, or maybe I'm getting the wrong term, but to actually gather that data and then potentially push it into your incumbent platform. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, I feel like for a company to be successful at this day and age, you got to play both, separately as a solo product that you can offer for folks who are looking for that, but also almost as a puzzle piece into a larger schema of technology, especially for more complex family offices and RAs that will use it.
Excellent. Thank you. Charlie, what pain point of mine are you looking to solve?
Right. Well, first, Haik, I think what you just said, beyond all the other stuff, the last part is absolutely critical, where you not only as a vendor or a provider need to have a standalone solution, but especially in this day and age, being able to just call it play nice with other tech providers that sit adjacent to you. I mean, that has been such a key part of some of the successes that we've had. And really that's evolved a lot in the last 10 years and change. So to answer your question, Shaun, so what we're really solving for is what we're labeling the data paradox, which is where data is everywhere, but oftentimes it's not actionable, or it's misleading, or there's a tremendous amount of errors in the data and the data feeds that come over, and we look to solve for that. By doing that, we're providing insights into which managers, themes, strategies are working well and which aren't. And this basically enables our clients to take action to preserve, protect, and grow their wealth. And then the last piece is on the operational efficiency side. So, I mean, let's face it, most family offices are understaffed and overworked. And we're unique in that we provide a back office as a service, as well as offering that technology to our clients. So our internal team can process corporate actions, correct custodial errors, can enter private equity, private investment data into our tool, so that our clients can focus on analysis and actions instead of spending time and money just trying to manage their data. And I mean, data is one of the biggest opportunities that exists out there. And if we can help our clients solve for it, it makes everyone's life a lot easier.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't think any family office is out there saying it's just so easy to get the data in. It's just so easy to get the analytics, and we trust all of it coming in, right? No one's saying that. So I guess what I can hear here is, take, from an aggregation point of view, from the reading, from using the AI tools, we're getting an aggregator, we're getting the, idiosyncratic data sets, in the ways that they come through. And then Charlie, we can push it into your system, or we can use your system to really dig into that data set. And I think your point there around the data feeds and the reconciliation of those data feeds, is that fair? Is that where you probably are at the tippy top of that, which is to say that we are a business that is really looking at getting not only the data in, but the data in clean and the data in with accuracy? Is that fair?
Yeah, and I think one of the big pieces, and hopefully we'll have a chance to touch on it later, is the unification of data across all the different data providers, and looking at the veracity that goes into ensuring that the data is accurate across custodians, across portfolios, et cetera. It's a huge.
What does that mean, Charlie? So we can talk about that now. What do you mean by that?
Well, just looking at different custodians having different pricing, timings of corporate actions, sort of that whole ecosystem of data, and how it can be different depending on which custodian you have, which pricing services you have.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is, speaking from experience today, right? Which is, trying to figure out what we're, having some comfort that the data that's coming over. I think between the two of you, maybe you can give me some feedback, but there is this idea that the data feed from custodians is this potentially perfect feed, right? That it should be trusted because it's coming from a bank, or but ultimately it's just someone over there punching in data that just travels over here, right? So Charlie, is that what you're saying? Like that's a part of where we're really challenged, and I know I am, which is that we want to be able to trust the data coming over, but we need that intermediation. Is that what PWS is providing?
Yeah, and I mean I've been in this industry, the wealth tech industry, for the better part of 25 years, which, God bless me, God help me, it's a long time. But what we see is between a 15 and 20% error rate in the
All right.
custodial feeds that come over, and I mean the hundreds of millions of dollars worth of corrections that we make on behalf of our clients. I mean, it puts us just in a different ecosystem. So it's not just providing reporting, but it's really about data cleanliness and being extraordinarily proactive with it.
Excellent. All right. So the other point, and again, this is more of a therapy session for me, to be perfectly honest with you. So bear with me. The other big challenge, obviously, within, and I think we sort of talked about at the beginning, which was that most family offices are relatively resource challenged, right? So you will have a chief executive officer, CFO, obviously some chief investment officer or a version of that. It's rare that there's a chief operating officer, in my experience anyway, right? There's rarely that someone is tasked solely like an institutional or an asset manager or something, or wealth management business, which is, we have someone that looks after the ops and tech, right? And that's where their specialist skill set sits, and we've got well-resourced and all the rest of it. So my challenge is, a lot of the time with platforms, especially sophisticated platforms, is that there's almost this need to have an internal expert that just knows everything, understands the idiosyncrasies of every platform and things like that. How do you think this ecosystem that you're building, how does that help? Haik, how about you, if you can answer to some of that? Because that power user, or that coming from ADAPA, where they do talk about things like power user and things like that. How do we solve for that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think humans are they're going to be the most expensive resource for a lot of these family offices and these firms. And I think where we come in handy, and where our philosophy aligns with that, is I think people can be used to do better things than do a lot of the headache, manual data entry, things like that, that a lot of AI can actually handle. And you don't have to wait for artificial general intelligence for this thing to be as smart as, a 30-year-old human, for it to just take some data off of documents or do a lot of the reconciliation, where it's pretty clear what needs to happen. There's certain rules that we all follow, and humans are more likely to miss a lot of that stuff as it happens. So to even Charles's point, you have a lot of data that you work with when you're doing reconciliation. I feel like where we come in really useful, and where our philosophy aligns there, is AI can actually help you leverage a lot of the data sets around corporate actions and things like that to go through and reconcile across your entire platform. So you don't really need these power users that need to be trained up on a new system and what to do, because we believe that everyone can write a text and email, and that's most likely what they're doing a lot of times to the back office, asking for stuff and requesting for it. So why not directly ask the AI for something you're looking for, versus going through a bunch of hoops to get to that data at the end where it's sitting already and accessible. And I think that's longer term going to be where AI and wealth management essentially start cross-pollinating as far as idea generation and how these things will be used. I think we're at day zero where people are still using like ChatGPT to do the same thing as Google searches. And you can definitely use our ARQA's AI chat to do that and say, show me your top holding across my portfolio. But then you're going to start very quickly getting into the workflows where you say, now I want certain automations to happen that help me get to exactly what I need, without this entire need for a power user sitting there who has to train up on every new system I implement.
No, absolutely. And Charlie, from your point of view, when you get new clients on board, how does PWS sort of view that internal resource? Are they, obviously we're trying to make friends with the internal resource, because that's, that makes a good relationship, and that makes sticky clients. So from your point of view, Charlie, how does PWS, I guess, enable that that internal education piece, or that internal user, without having to have someone that just knows it, inside and out?
Yeah, and I mean, we have a back office service that's pretty unique in the industry. So, as you know, one side of the equation is certainly as a tech provider being able to interface with others, but the other part is also providing a unique service that you're not going to be able to find elsewhere. So,
like an intermediary inside the business, so that would almost be like an outsourced middle back office piece.
Yeah, and so from a data gathering and aggregation perspective, I mean, it's an issue that's been in the reporting analytics landscape for decades, and so a lot of times this is outsourced to consultants that perhaps don't have experience within the investment and even more applicable family office landscape. So we end up doing a lot of the work so that our clients don't have to. So I think I alluded to this before. We've corrected, I think it was last year, between 400 and 600 million in bank data feed errors. So correcting these errors is a huge benefit in terms of giving our clients peace of mind and saving them time and money. I think one of the more recent things that happened in the industry is that NVIDIA went through the 10-for-1 stock split. What we experienced was that several banks duplicated the corporate action in client accounts, which created major issues in account values, accounting gains and losses, as well as risk and return analytics. So we have what we call a master investment book of record that had the correct data so that our clients actually never saw these data errors. It's a huge piece. And then looking at the 15 to 20% error rate per day, we solve for the accuracy at mass scale. So errors can range from mispricing securities, errors in corporate actions, only having partial transactions like buying a security, but not having a corresponding reduction in cash that would overstate cash balances and liquidity. So there's a lot of sort of dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and AI and a lot of data feeds can solve for some of it, but sometimes it does require manual intervention. And one of the big things for us is that's not outsourced, it's not overseas, it's all onshore with our current staff when it does go to the manual side.
All right, so we got the data, it's aggregated, we got a large language model, we can talk to it through Haik, and then obviously we get some comfort from the data reconciliation piece that's happening through PWS, right? So we got a perfect little circle, which is great. So maybe this is a good time to do a poll. Alex, there's the first poll there, which is around sort of what's the biggest time waster, I think. So I think that's pretty, from what we've just talked about, maybe for people listening, and that this could be a good chance to sort of voice what we've just talked about, manually entering data, lost data, dealing with software and bugs and glitches. I think, explaining people how to use it, how to use the software itself. So I think this is a good idea to maybe do a poll, if that's okay. And in the meantime, I think we can just leave it up and we can keep talking. So let's talk about some of the thematics that you're seeing then. Haik, what are clients asking for? They've signed up, they're with you, they're using the platform. What are they asking for? Or actually, what are they saying? Well, this is exactly what we need. We didn't know that we needed it.
Yeah.
We thought we were going to use it for something else, and now we're using it for this. What in your experience has been some of the pleasant surprises?
Yeah, I think when we first rolled out CoreScript, the manual data entry module on ARQA, a lot of capital calls, distributions, valuations were the use cases that everyone thought about. But very quickly, it transformed into K1s, into tax docs, and now even full custodial statements, because people are still encountering offline data where data feeds don't exist. So over time, I think what's interesting and what's happened is a lot of people are opening their eyes to where AI can help, and they go back and look at kind of the drawing board of their entire schema of operations and come back to us and say, can AI do this or that? And what we've essentially turned into is from a lean startup that listens to clients to develop the next module into their SWAT AI team, which is, hey, can AI actually do this? Can AI actually do that? And our response is always, as long as there are scalable solutions around it using artificial intelligence, we're all game for it. So the most recent one we've heard about is rebalancing via AI. So actually having models set up where they can monitor across their own portfolios and tell them where asset exposure is too much, and then be able to actually generate some ideas around trades that are tax efficient, or if they want to completely swap a sector out within their portfolio, then they can go ahead and do that as well. The other idea is, hey, can we actually use AI to generate these reports themselves? So no one's actually making them. We are essentially asking it to create these. And as you know, retail technology has always kind of been at the forefront of institutional tech. But I think we're at this interesting point right now where leveraging AI, we can get ahead of it, even on the institutional side. So family offices, large RIAs, and anyone using systems with AI can get ahead of it too. So that's where I think a lot of insights come in, and people are asking for stuff where it's like, let it replace the things that I'm doing, but also there's more that AI can do that they're not yet thinking of. So we're in this very interesting missionary journey to open up a lot of folks' eyes into what's possible. And I think over the next couple of months, with new modules that we're rolling around performance analytics, data monitoring, is going to be really interesting. And hopefully we can pull people out of the hottest fintech solution, which has been Excel for the family office space for a long time. So
don't knock Excel, man. Like, Excel is really good still. Like,
it's flexible, and that's why it's so powerful, right? But realistically,
it's flexible. It's very inexpensive. It comes with my Word and my PowerPoint and all that sort of stuff. But I get your point. And no, I kid. Like, that is one of my main aims usually with family offices, to say I know everyone likes it, and the finance team are very difficult to get off it, but ultimately what we're trying to get is a bit of trust, right? And I think your point there around being able to ask questions in a natural way of the system, I think is potentially the utopia that I'm always seeking for, which is to say, I would like the IRR of this particular asset over this particular time, but also really to have the engagement of the family or people that who never face off against infrastructure. They just being able to type it in, being able to use natural language and just to ask it questions, I think is going to be fascinating to watch for sure. Charlie, same question for you. What are you finding that clients are saying, well, we thought we were getting this, but we're surprised that actually this is what we're using it for, or maybe we're using it for more?
Yeah, I mean, and piggybacking on what Haik said, a lot of it is AI and the introduction of AI using NLP and several other things. So we have our AI is being trained on very complex capital statements to ensure data accuracy and operational scale. But what we've also found out there is that many AIs are trained on less complex statements, so they have higher error rates in processing these complex statements. And then the other two things that we're getting is document management, like an integrated document management, so you can have those K1s, all those things that Haik was talking about. And it enables users to upload any of the documents from anywhere to create personalized tags, and make it searchable and retrievable. And then the last piece, which I find really interesting, is on the mobile front. So we've got a mobile app that's going to be available toward the end of the year, but also note that, for us, even our platform itself is mobile friendly, but what we're being asked for is a mobile specific application. And it's one of those things, be careful what you wish for, because there's a lot of technology that can be built into a mobile app, and you want to make sure that the information is relevant and actionable, but you also want to make sure that there's some guardrails on it, just making sure that people are utilizing the data and the application effectively.
Yeah, I think the document storage piece is an interesting one, right? And getting some use out of that. I think so. This sort of leads us into an interesting question around. And I think this was touched on again at the beginning, which was creating this ecosystem, right? Where in this family office infrastructure piece, like you've got investments, you've got finance, you've got the CEO, you've potentially got communication software, you've got, on average, we kind of see 3 or 4 different platforms to a certain degree. Hey, let's talk to you first. So where in your mind does your system sit, and where doesn't it, if that's not a silly question? But could give us an idea of, if I had to paint a picture of my family office infrastructure, this is where I'm going to put your firm.
Yeah, so ARQA sits primarily within the investment and operation side of the business currently. And the way it's built is leveraging a lot of the knowledge and the background we have within those two kind of verticals to build ARQA as it is today. However, the beautiful thing about generative AI is you can point it to any data set and it essentially can work. So we are agnostic of data set. We're agnostic of LLMs. So we've created this platform that down the line, if we do want to go after a certain other operation and vertical within the family office space, where maybe it's, like you said, finance, maybe it's bill pay, maybe it's something else, just to even provide analytics across bill pay, where it's saying, hey, show me all the transactions that occurred there, pull it in because it's coming through QuickBooks or something like that. We're able to actually leverage Gen AI to do that. But currently, we just live in the investment and operations side. We're dabbling a little on the other places with some great family office partners who are tech forward and early adopters of technology. So we'll have more to come on that front. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting kind of land and expand model into the entire operation of a family office pretty soon for us.
Yeah, so almost to create some webbing almost, right? Which is just to say, well, this, this is the general ledger. This is, because I think, as we probably all know, there is a challenge between the investment book of record and the accounting book of record in terms of, especially in Australia. I mean, and speaking to, US family offices and European family offices, kind of similar too, which is that it's not the same reporting output that you look for. And some firms have gone through the integration of the GL and the investment book. I guess you're more the connective tissue within that structure, potentially, correct, which would be, okay, we've got this system for this. We might have this system for investments, this system for general ledger. We might have some sort of communication software, but there is an element of we need to have all this working in cohesion. And I think this is the problem, or not challenge for me all the time, which is I don't want 6 different logins. You know what I mean? I want one. And I want that one to then create an open architecture or whatever, but I still want it to be one piece. So you're saying, if I'm hearing it correctly, that we will log in and you will be within that structure, but you won't necessarily be the investment book of record and the reporting, but you will work within that, and potentially, like you said, there's all these other different facets that we could sort of gap fill a little bit. Right. Is that fair?
Yeah, and it just comes. Yeah, that's a great way to kind of illustrated, and it really comes down to the data that's available. So in something like an Adipar or some systems out there, it's a one-sided performance system. Then you have the GL where it's looking at double-sided accounting. And realistically, to make both of those talk, it's not that the data is different that's underlying, because it's the same investment in 2 places. It's the level of data that's actually available for it and what the system cares about. And we have the advantage of using AI to actually do both, where we have the full cycle of the transaction. Then it opens up to the GL if you want that reporting, or you just want to look at the performance from the fund side, or your performance when you actually deployed that capital call and see what the cash drag was, because it's set out in a cash in transit bucket for a while until it was the due date. So there's different ways of looking at that same universe of data. And I think that's where AI really trumps what's available today, which is, can I see it in different dynamic ways? And what's the most comfortable way that I want to report on this and works for my family office?
Great. Now, Charlie, you're, the investment book of record, right? You're I'm going to you for my IRR, my money on invested capital, my DVPI, all that sort of good stuff, right? And it's almost like a portfolio management piece there. Now, you spoke before about, what PWS does better than, in your opinion, better than anyone, which is that accuracy of data set, right? Which is that bringing, reconciliation of data wherever it's gathered, or you gather it yourself through your own AI functionality, and also that middle back office outsourcing piece, which I think, is a big plus. Can you give me your view around sort of where you sit within that ecosystem? What am I seeing you? Am I seeing you as the whole thing, or am I seeing you as, a part of it? Where do you sit within there?
I would always see it as a part of it, because the whole thing is going to encompass bill pay and the document management and the aggregation and portals. And so we we sit in a place where it's on the operations side, but we have full visibility to family members. And as you can imagine with tech, I mean, each user or type of user can be granted permission to see anything from reporting to trades to analytics to IRR. But then we actually have some users that can use the platform for their own data entry for real estate and corporate holdings, etc. But really, it's an interface into the entire ecosystem of their wealth. So it could be external advisors that have access to the platform.
Permissions, so they can have permissions over the other side and use you as sort of the conduit between the two.
100%.
Yeah.
So it's not just the family members, it's not just the family office, it's also the external providers. So the attorneys, the accountants, the planners, etc. But then it's also serving as a conduit to the other investment data providers. And I mean, again, we've got partnerships with bill pay, document management.
Speak to that, Charlie. Can you speak to a little bit about that? Like, what's these data providers that are coming in via you?
Well, if you look at just general market data providers, pricing, etc. But it's built out. So one of the things that I think is interesting about PWS, and I've worked with 3 or 4 different reporting platforms, is that we're agnostic in terms of the hierarchy of the data. So if someone wants to use a general market data provider to be the golden copy, we can do that. If they want it to be an individual custodian, we can do that. But we've worked hard to put ourselves in a position where we're agnostic, but we can serve as a single source of truth and point of truth with any of the data that comes in, with all the analytics that we provide, and then really getting into the veracity of calculations is also incredibly important, as well as, again, looking at the data side of it. So golden copy of data and having the right data across the entire platform is really, it's the ethos of who we are.
Yeah, and I think that's that source of truth, right? And that accuracy is just so important, and it's just such a hard thing to reconcile. You know, I think I'm going to have nightmares about reconciliation, right? I think that's where I'm on my deathbed, probably have a horrible nightmare about it. But it's that reconciliation of where do we get the data set from? Can we trust it? Is it cleansed? And you know, as you know, we might have this system for 5 or 6 years, and then if there was an error on onboard or an error on when we got it set up, and it just continually compounded that error, then, you know, that's the worst case scenario, right? So I think getting it right at the beginning is such an important thing. I think having that mindset of data first is absolutely important. So maybe let's do the other poll. We've got another poll question, Alex. Do you want to put that one up, and then for people to view it, and then we can keep chatting? I think that was my original one. There we go. So a little bit about your client base. Let's talk about that. Now, I'm all the way at the wrong end of the world, so I'm usually the last person to get these great new technologies, so that's fine. But Haik, where's the demand for US, I'm assuming. Can you give us a bit of a flavor for who's using using your solution? Who's, you know, not necessarily the family offices, obviously, because that's what we're talking about today. But, you know, give us a flavor for what that family office looks like. Maybe if we're looking to segment them, and maybe if someone's listening, they go, well, that's me. That's, you know, that's what we're challenged by.
Yeah, it's you know, we have a pretty healthy mix of family offices and RIAs first and foremost, and then within the family office, when we double click into it, it's mostly right now the complex family offices who are tech forward. That's how I would like to describe them. And we're slowly making the way to the smaller, I would say, family offices who are kind of within that Excel space now, because we are able to support them with more functionality on that investment data side. as well. But currently it's the complex guys who have a bunch of systems working. They need to be looking at optimizing essentially their workflows, and they are throwing people at the problem where they could be throwing technology. And that's where our ARQA plays a big value. And then right now we're looking at North America primarily from a geography standpoint. But the beautiful thing with what we've built is we've had requests from clients saying, hey, I'm running an MFO and I have a Chinese family office that's trying to work with me. And their statements are coming in Chinese. Can we actually work with these? Once generative AI parses the document, we can translate it into English for them. We can actually translate all the entries as well. So for us, there's a nice, interesting opportunity that says you don't have to pay this translator who's sitting in Hong Kong to translate these documents for you, send it over. We have direct access to parse it out, translate it for you, and put it into whatever system you would like in whatever format. And I think that opens up a lot of doors for Canadian companies and Latin American family offices as well to start working with us first and foremost, and then slowly look into the European and Asian markets. But we've already proven out that use case. So I think it's interesting how it very quickly expands from being North American focused out to, hey, now you can actually put a claw into whatever assets you have overseas as well and bring it in if you want to.
Awesome. That's great. And Charlie, what about you? Where are you seeing, if I had to segment the growing demand at PWS, where's that coming from? What does that client look like?
There's some variability there in a very interesting sense. So our primary client base are family offices, typically with 9, 10, 11 figures of total assets that are being tracked on our platform. We do see several pretty sophisticated RIAs coming in, and I'd really hedge to call them multifamily offices that are putting data first. Again, it just seems to be the theme for most of the things that we're going through, where having the accuracy of the data, having the veracity of the data being at the highest level is a big piece. And then what has actually happened recently is a segue into the institutional space. And the beauty of that is that a lot of those institutional standards we're now able to bring back to the family office and RIAs. So a lot of those calculations, a lot of the data veracity, a lot of the views that we provide our institutional clients are actually trickling into the family office and RIAs. I think one of the other pieces is, where are we seeing it? So we've got 1,100 clients around the globe. In the next few months, we're going to be announcing a massive new client for us, which is the Big Four accounting firm. I think it's in the neighborhood of 350 new families that are coming onto the platform. And that's
through the Big Four. Is that how that's happening?
Say that again, please.
Is it through the Big Four accounting firm that you're going to get?
Yeah. So we're going to be doing the reporting, aggregation, and analytics for all of their family office clients.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was a very, very big win for us this year. And then the other thing is that the people that are finding us are all across North America. There's European. We have a whole host of clients that have come on board in Asia, and specifically Singapore. What we've found, which I think is very interesting, is that most of the folks that I talk to are references from our existing client base, and not because we're asking, but because our clients are going to their friends and saying, you really need to speak with PWS. And I mean, looking at some of the people that are on the chat here or that are attending this, like some of these folks are our clients. So, and some of them are very prolific in helping us talk to new firms, new people, new families.
Oh, there's nothing better than a reference, right? So that's great. Well, just keeping in mind time, look, hey, I'd really like to know, I mean, all the family office principals that I work with, they're always looking at a line item and it says, how much are we paying for Excel? And we're paying nothing. why are we paying for something else outside of that? So can you give me a bit of flavor for how much I have to talk to the principal around sort of we're going to have a line item for?
Yeah. So we, philosophically, I'm against AUM billing for technology in this space. And I think, Shaun, we've talked about this before in our previous calls and how passionate I am about it. And, I've been on the Adapar side, and they can kind of do that and fly with that. But realistically, we think the trend and where the world is heading is more volume-based pricing, which is, as long as you gain value as far as using my tool, and that's how much you pay for it. And as long as the price is below the value you gain, then I think that's a deal that everyone will take. And for us, if you're looking, it's a little different as far as how each module is built for. Generally, the kind of umbrella is volume-based, but if you're looking at core script for manual data entry, it's essentially single digits per document to be processed for large custodial statements in the, I would say, 75 to hundreds of pages. It's low double digits, so think of like $10 to $12. So that kind of gives back of the envelope calculation for a lot of folks as to where that sits. But where we are right now, and kind of the way we prefer to work with those early adopters, is we like to get them into what we call our partnership program early on, which is give us 6 months to essentially work with you at a flat rate per month, and be more of a fit and build some of the features that you require. So they give us the good ARR, which is not only money, but it also gives the feedback that comes with it and says, this is the thing I like, this is the thing I don't, and this is where I would like it to look like as well. And we're a super lean team, and we like to hear that type of feedback because we can improve our system, but also give them more value for what they're paying for.
So what I'm hearing then is it's almost at the line level, right? So at like you said, a sort of volume based. If I have a significant amount of transactions, or there's a very heavy turnover within the business, it's going to, where it's more complex, it becomes a little bit more expensive. But we're talking between $1 and $12 per sort of line. Is that fair?
Correct. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, and everyone listening can do a back of the envelope kind of calculation on what that looks like, and I'm sure that that works well. Charlie, can you give us a little bit of a flavour for that conversation that you're having with clients at the moment
around the cost perspective?
Yeah, absolutely, if you can.
Yeah, so part of it depends.
How do you charge? Let's start there. How does that work?
Yeah, so to Haik's point, I mean, we really don't do AUM based billing. It sometimes comes into effect for an RIA, because if we build per client, so if an RIA has 500 clients, that the way our typical cost structure works doesn't really work for an RIA. So there would be a slight AUM fee, but the way we have it is sort of a static fee depending on the complexity. So if there's 15 family members and call it 11 figures of wealth that are being managed, it's really a flat fee. But if there are thousands of entities that are being tracked, there's going to be just with the additional complexity, there's going to be some slightly higher fees. But one of the big pieces to keep in mind, and I know we're sort of joking and poking and prodding on Excel, is that because we have 1,100 clients, and our platform was built specifically for family office, so we weren't trying to backfill the technology. Most of the things that we're developing for an individual client is also deployed to all of our client base. So unless there's some esoteric calculation, comparison, unique data set, the majority of what we're doing is being deployed to all of our clients. And of course, it's all web-based. It's all on AWS. So it's been a very interesting ride. We have an incredibly low client attrition rate as well. So once folks come with us, they tend to stay for a very long time.
Excellent. You're still not going to give me a base rate for it?
It really depends. No, I'm happy to provide some context. So
yeah, some context would be good.
Yeah. So on average, what you'll see is a cost per relationship being a family of between
Mhm.
5 and 10,000 a month.
Mhm.
But that
Right.
covers everything.
That covers everything.
With the exception of manual data entry, but it covers every custodian, it covers every data feed, it covers all of that. And sort of going back to what we were asking about before with the limited resources and FTEs at family offices, we're just looking to provide a place where all of this can be outsourced reasonably. And the other piece, and I'm sure Haik, this goes with you folks as well, is that our whole group is industry, let's call ourselves veterans. So we've been in this space for a long time. We've seen a lot. We haven't seen it all, because I think it's a little crazy to say that we've all seen it all. But there's just a level of experience that we, and I'm sure Haik and your team, bring to the table, which gives a lot of peace of mind.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think this is why that question is a little bit sort of up and down, but I think the cost benefit piece needs to be looked at, right? Which is and maybe this is the circle of this conversation, which is, what are we trying to solve for at the beginning, right? Haik, from your point of view, that aggregation piece, that the manual componentry, and I mean just the level of time and effort that and some very expensive, like you're getting the CFO or the CEO or something like that to do that data entry piece. I mean, you tick that over by the hour, you're starting to get up there. And Charlie, I think your point there is exceptionally well made, which is we've got to look at it from a total piece. So what are we insourcing? What are we outsourcing? What's going to be the way that we structure this? We get all the connective tissue together. We get this operational piece in place. I mean, and I think this is where we talk about sort of governance, right? So I work a lot with the investment governance piece, and it's getting all that data, getting all in place so we can make proper decisions and we can be informed, right? And also we can be engaged. I think getting generationally engaged is really important. Getting people engaged with the portfolio that potentially weren't. I think it all comes together really nicely. Haik, I think your point around being able to put some natural language in there, and Charlie, your points around being, just being confident in the data set, I think it's exceptionally important. So that's all I've got. Unless, Haik, is there anything that you'd like to make sure that we cover before we head off?
I think the big thing that always comes, and it's that kind of last question of a call where people say, what haven't I asked, right? And I think a lot of it is, with the day and age of AI, privacy and data security is one of the things that comes up fairly often. And the way that, we have thought of that solution and what we've built with ARQA is very different than what's kind of available out there. So just for everyone's hopefully context, there's a bunch of these wrappers that exist out there that leverage essential LLMs that are public, where they can essentially say, drop in a PDF and we can do this, or this type of document and we'll answer questions with it. If anyone remembers, a couple months ago there was this chat with my PDF wrapper that had fundraised so much, but then OpenAI released their PDF entry and then suddenly just blew them out of the water. So with all that said, there's a lot of things that are going to happen with data security and privacy. What we've done over the last couple of years when we built the back end of ARQA is really leverage a solution that's intricate in the way that puts privacy and security at the utmost importance of functionality. So we're able to leverage new technologies like LLMs, any of the updates they do make to LLMs outside, without sacrificing data and PII that goes out to them. And the way we've done that is we built functions that sit with us that take the language request, for lack of a better term, translate it into that function. That's where the LLM essentially comes in. But the data that we call in, whether it's from Adapar, Orion, any system, or in the documents themselves, never leaves the system itself. So that way, everything that you're seeing, you own. And we're on this, I would say, mission to basically democratize the data that folks have. I always say that systems that are out there and some of the older, larger incumbents, it's always Hotel California. It's great once you get your data in there, but as far as when you want to actually leave and take it out or own it, it becomes a much more difficult task. So for us, I think there's two roads where you can actually have that mobility of data, but you have to sacrifice essentially your privacy and PII, or you have to think of a solution like ARQA where you're leveraging both the technology that's out there, the mobility of your data, but at the same time putting a vault on top of everything that you hold near and dear as far as the client's data that you're working with.
Excellent point. Yeah, data security, I think, and also like that obsolescence piece, right? Like are we going to move with the technologies as it gets better and better? And I think the point's well made. Charlie, what would you like to sort of end on? What's a point that you'd like to make?
Sure, and I think to Haik's point, the privacy and data security is absolutely paramount, especially when we're talking about family offices, because of just the level of privacy and confidentiality. But I think one of the things that we've encountered as we're helping folks transition from other platforms, and as you said before, everyone's favorite no-cost, low-cost platform of Excel, is that we have purposefully, and some of our clients call it an overbuilt platform, but really the ethos there is that we are providing a platform that an institution, an individual is not going to grow out of, but grow into. So as their needs change, as the data granularity perhaps gets a little more into the weeds, our clients are not going to outgrow the solution. But then the other piece, and like it or not, this is just where we put our stake in the ground, is that for us, it's all about the data. And we provide a white glove service and solution so our clients can outsource all the data acquisition. We provide bespoke reporting for each of our clients. So if you look at the 1,100 clients, we've created a scalable solution that enables each individual client and user to have their own bespoke access to reports and analytics and all of the data across all the family members. And then it can be accessed anytime, anywhere, and really for whatever reason. So a lot of it for us is the white glove service, which we truly mean, and then just access to the data, and then providing a solution that is forever evolving. Because as we bring on new clients, every one of them has something interesting that they're looking for, or different that they're looking for. And then the beauty is that because it's distributed the way it is, most of the additions to the tech and as it evolves actually goes to all of our clients. So it ends up being a pretty scalable way to deploy a solution and outsource a lot of the heavy lifting. Great.
Excellent. Well, thank you both. Phil, I think that's good timing. You just popped up out of there. Looking a little grumpy, but that's all right. Charlie and Haik, I really appreciate your time. This was really interesting. Hopefully it was good for the audience, and Phil and Adriana, hopefully it was helpful for you as well.
Phil, just one thing. The poll questions, we have some good answers actually there. So we're going to put that on the episode page for everyone to have a look, what people said. And look out for an announcement with our conference registration. So anyway, thank you. Phil, over to you.
Shaun, thank you so much, really. This is one of our best programs for sure. Thank you for getting Haik to attend, and Haik, thank you for not being in Los Angeles and being in New York, so you didn't have to. So we had trying to make this too difficult. And Charles, thanks for stepping in. This has been really educational, and I'm sure everyone learned something. And Shaun, again, my utmost thanks to you.
No worries. All right, great. Thanks,
hope everyone had a good time.
Thanks for having us.
See you at the conference.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.